All right, good morning, all of you. And it's really a nice, crowded audience, so very happy to see all of you. Welcome in Amsterdam, my home, actually, so that's also nice. I'm from Data Changers. You can Google me, so I'm not going to talk a lot about myself. Today will be about Power BI Desktop. And now first checking, who of you is familiar with Power BI Desktop? Wow, a lot of them. Who's a beginner? Let's say it's new. Right, then you're the right target audience. So for people that have some more experience, this is really an introduction session, so it's to inspire you. Hopefully, also for the people who knew already things, I tried to show you one feature or one of the many features that's new. So maybe you can even, get inspired too. So basically, Power BI Desktop is the first encounter with Power BI. It's easy to approach. You can just download it and you can start exploring your data. You also have the option to run it in the cloud. Of course, there's a service. There's also interaction with your company data via gateways. And of course, you have all kinds of interaction tools. But for now, we're just focusing on the desktop part. I think I don't have to move my head too much. Sorry for that. And you can connect a lot of data sources to it. So that's where we're coming up. Actually, there are 6 versions, I think, to download. But basically, if you would download it, you can do it either via the store, so Microsoft Store, or you can just download it from their website, so the MSI. One recommendation, please make sure that you download the same version as the distribution as your Office 365 installation, because if not, it might interact weird or you get strange error messages around not connecting right to your Access database, for example. So please make sure that if you install it manually, please check your Office 365 installation first so it can work smoothly. There's also a report server version. And that's a little bit different. So you can dive into the details, of course. But for now, we're just running with the desktop. And it's updated a lot. So you have, these are old releases, so it's up to September. But just to give you an overview of how many things are changing over time. So there's a release every month. But if you use the Microsoft Store version, you will also get pushed some bug fixes and things in the meanwhile. So normally, when you don't use it very often and you open it every month or so, you get like a nice message like, hey, there's an update available, please do so. And as you can see, there's not just one thing, there are many things. And if we look at this month, for example, I highlighted it, you can see that there are things regarding the reporting options, the analytics. Sometimes you got modeling options, so you have new functions to write your own measures with, how you can visualize your data. Well, actually, it's a long list. And at the end of the presentation, there will be also some slides incorporated where you can find that information. So you don't have to write it down. All these slides will be available, so no worries for that. But just showing you that it's a rapidly evolving product. Be aware that it's not always backwards compatible. So if somebody develops something in a new version, right, if you then come back and you open an old version, it doesn't work. Or mostly it doesn't work. So please be aware of that. So many new things, but as a company, please be aware of that your company will be on the same version. It helps. And there are over 80 data connectors. And every month, at least one of the things normally it is a new data connector. Of course, you can write your own connectors, but there are many there, and I'm going to show you also the new one. It's one I like personally very much, that get data out of table data out of a PDF. That's something I needed personally sometimes, and I couldn't do it. And right now, I could do it, but a different way, and now I can just do it with Power BI. So that's a thing I'm going to show you. So you can download things from or connect things via files. Right, that's just the standard one, but also to databases. Of course, they're all kind of Azure interactions, online services. And if you don't find your connector here, then please let Microsoft know, because they have a user community. If you ask for things, normally they review it before they start building new things. So please feel free to also interact with them. What can you do with Power BI Desktop? I think a lot of you already experienced it a little bit. So it's to explore your data, I would say. It's explore it, visualize it in an easy way, drill down to details. You can interact with your reports, and you can even build your own custom visuals if you would like to. Or you can use visuals from the marketplace where other people developed it, they shared it with you. But basically, it's to get quick insights. And of course, you can share it with the whole company, et cetera, et cetera. But for people to start with it, I think the best way would be to just connect your data, explore it in an easy way. And we're going to demo it live, so I think you will get the real experience in a way that it also might fail and things can happen, but I think it's the fairest way, I think, to show. And as said, there are a lot of visuals already standard available in Power BI Desktop, but you can also go to the marketplace. We will go through that as well. So you have a lot of categories where you can search from. Well, actually, I will leave that to the demo to show you. It also interacts very nice with Power BI service. So if you explored your data, you've created your dashboard, you have a storyline, you have your visuals, you can upload it, right? That's to the Power BI service. So that's running online, and you can publish it. So you can access it, your mobile, your desktop. You can also integrate it within your current applications. You can also give specific people different access. So there's an authorization protocol behind it. And yeah, you can interact, of course. So this is an example of the screenshot there is of the online Power BI services. We're not going to cover that today in the demo, but just to give you an idea what is out there. So maybe I took a little bit too quick, but my intention was of today is just give you an introduction, do the demo, really do things, show things, get some hands-on experience, I would say. Well, you could grab your laptop if you want to. And then actually finalize this presentation going through some slides where you can see where the communities are, where you can get some templates from, et cetera, et cetera. So for now, the demo. And let me switch to Power BI itself. Oh, it's already good. That's good. So when you open Power BI, it will normally start with this screen or normally with a sign-in. So if you don't have a user, you can create a user. And that's also an important thing to tell you. It's for free. Okay, so you can create a user. It's a free license. Of course, there's the pro version of it. But just to do the things we're going to do right now, that's just with the free version. And yeah, so it's literally a few clicks away and you can use it. Everyone can download it. You can run it on the go. And you get some information. So if you don't know how to start, you could run a video. They also tell you what's new in this release. You have the forum. So actually, this is already sort of a menu where you can scroll through. Now, I go directly to either my reports, which have the format of the PBX files, or I can get data. And we will start with getting data, because as said, you have many connectors, and I'm going to highlight some of them. Actually, I'm going to start with a nice one I like. So, as you've seen, you've got various options. You show all the options here, and I would like to use this one, so it's the PDF connector, but as you can see, it's in beta. Now, if you don't see that option, that might be because of the fact that you haven't highlighted that. So if you want to see all the new things, you can go to your options. And actually, that's good to your options and settings. You go to options. And that's not by default, so I think it's nice to know. And you have an option that's preview features. So if you like to try new things, that's where you can go to. There's also a slide in the presentation with this part, so don't worry. Now, in this case, I enabled it to get data from PDF files, so that's what we're going to do. And I'll show you the PDF file. This is a PDF containing just simple data. I think for the people who did the Introduction to Data Science course might recognize this file. It's a lemonade data file where a girl was selling lemonade on a specific day. So I plotted the January sales, and we see that we have a day, temperature, it was rainfall, she spread some flyers, had a price for it, and she sold things. That's actually the amount of lemonade she sold. But right now, I mean, I can't use it because it's PDF, right? So normally what I did, I wrote my own script in R, for example. You can read PDFs, you can get data out, but that was quite, well, it's not very complicated, but it's a lot of labor and effort to get it. And for now, actually, I'm very happy because what I can do now, here I got the option Get Data. So I choose this one. You get a message that it's still under development, and you will see that it's not perfect yet. But anyway, I highlighted this so you get the information. Of course, you can also shut it down. So I'm going to my Lemonade file, and I say open. And it shows me actually the tables it found. And this is nothing. This is just a page file, or they're two the same thing. So page 1, here again, page 1. So I just take the first one, and you have to click it, select it. And you can either load it directly or edit it. Now, in this case, I want to edit it because, for example, I miss my column headers. These numbers sounds a little bit weird to me. If I look at the files, like, well, no, I got here a decimal separator. It's not here. So I want to edit it before I load it. So it opens up your query option. And you've seen here the steps that it applied, so that Power BI applied directly on your file. Now, I'm not happy with all the steps. You can go back. So for example, it changed the type. If I want to go one step back, I see, hey, that's cool. I got my numbers. So in this case, I'm going to remove this one. So as said, it's really nice import, but you still have to do things. And this is the moment where I can say, all right, what can I do with my file? So it's there, but it's not perfect yet. So let's fix that. So one of the things I see is this supposed to be a date field, right? We see the date, we see the days. However, there's something wrong because we got the date name pasted to it. So I want to separate that. And the good news is that you can do that by saying, all right, I'm going to add a column. But instead of splitting it, because it's hard to find the delimiter, you could say, right, it's the last number and then, break it. But there's an easier way right now. You can say we can create a column based on an example. And in this case, I used the selection because I selected the first column. I know I want to use that one. And what it gives you the options to enter what you would like to see. So in this case, I would like to see the date. So I start typing 01, it's 01. And here, actually, I already see, hey, it's the date of column 1. Now, it pre-fills already all the other fields. So in this case, this is enough. In some cases, you might have to enter a few lines before it recognizes really what it should do. So in this case, I'm fine. This is my date. And I also would like to have the day out of it. Now, I could do that the same way, or I can say, well, take it out of date, but let's just try this again. I create a column from an example. I use my selection. But now, instead of the date itself, I'm going to work through the Sunday, so the date of the week. Let's see. Well, yeah, it's an easy split, so it's recognized. Good. So now you can see that actually with a few clicks, to be honest, you can split a set. And it's also updatable. So whenever you downloaded the new file, it will come back with these steps. Because if you can see, it will use the imported column. It will convert it based on that column and so forth. So you can apply it. The other thing, well, the day name, that's fine. We don't need this column anymore. And here is also a nice thing. As you've seen, it's now a string. You see maybe, I'm not sure if that's readable for you, but you see the little ABC here. However, in this case, it's a number, right? It's a numeric value, and it has a decimal. And we're in Holland. I think we're normally facing a lot of US reporting. However, maybe our system settings might be Dutch ones, right? We have a solution for that as well. So what you could do here is you say, okay, I'm going to change the type, but instead of using the standard ones, I'm going to say, right, using local. And that option gives you the option to say what you want to do. So in this case, I would like to have a decimal number, and the input itself, it's US and it's English. So I say, all right, it's US, English. So scroll down. There are a lot of English versions. There we go. And now it gives you the sample input values. So I see that it's nicely converted to files to values where you see the comma as a 1,000 separator, a dot as a decimal separator, and that's actually the way we want it. So if we do that, you can see that it's now converted to a decimal. And that helps in this case. And actually where we were talking about the temperature. So let's get that right too. Okay, so we will do the same step for rainfall. So again, it's a string. That's not what we want. We're going to convert it. Sorry, you have to click right. Good. So click into the column, then right click and change the type. Select using local. And we're going to make it into a decimal number. And we're using English again. Oops. There you go. Again, it's nicely converted. This was rainfall. Now let's take also a value. This is price. That might be also nice one. So sorry for that. I told you it's a real demo. So this is where you go through as a data scientist sometimes. Yeah, again, it's a decimal number and English. Okay, good. And let's take sales too. So this was price. And the amount of sales, so that's also one. So this is sales. And in this case, we're going to do it. And we can actually also, yeah, that's good. So there it is, because this one was an easy one. We're fine with it. So when we're finished, you can say, all right, apply those changes and close it. And as you can see, you have all the applied steps here. So whenever you want to change something, whenever you want to add things, you can just edit your queries and you can insert things, you can remove things, and just save it. And in this case, we're going to close and apply it. And there we go. And actually, we should give it a name because it's lemonade sales. Okay, so, all right. So now you've created a table, right, based on a PDF table, and you imported it, and it's now available actually to report about. And I forgot to tell you that you have actually 3 tabs here. So you have your canvas where you can draw your visuals on. You have your data. And you also have the connections, so the relations between the tables. Now, in this case, I only have my lemonade sales. There's no connection with it. But you could imagine that, for example, you would like to have a date table or other fact tables, like, for example, what did you sell, right? Like maybe you had a product idea here. You could link it to your product table and get more information about it. That's actually a nice thing I like about Power BI in comparison to other products I used, like, for example, Tableau. Tableau forces you to create one flat file. Now, in this case, I don't need to create that flat file myself. I can just say, all right, I get the connections between them right. So basically, this part, the modeling part, and I will highlight that later on, this is the most important part, well, at least to me, because when you fix it here, right, when you have your right structure, your users can then create their reports. But you don't have to create very complex flat files, extensive files, where it's actually not necessary, because people can choose them themselves. If you define the relations well, then of course they're more flexible. For now, we don't have relations. We will see that with another file we will do. Here's the data. You can see it, it's nicely converted. We didn't do something with column 4. That's something, if you would like to fix it later on, you would just edit your query and say, all right, now I know what I wanted to do. It would be nice if it also worked. Good. And sometimes it crashes, yes. So for example, now another day, I want to fix it, column 4, it was flyers. We change it and we say, all right, it's not a string, it's not text, it's a decimal number. And as you can see, there are many options where to change things, and that makes it maybe a little bit complicated at first. On the other side, it's a little bit like Excel on steroids, I would say. Also in Excel, you have many ways to do things. Here it's actually the same. So we're finished, we apply it, you see it added an extra step, and we're back to that. So if you want to change queries, this is how quick you can do it. All right. Another thing you can do is, all right, we've said that we wanted some columns to be numerics, right? We had decimals. We can also give it a special type, I would say. So in this case, for example, it knows that the data type is a decimal number. However, we know in this case that it's also $1, right? So we can use this one, and we can say, all right, we give it a format. And a format will actually help you later on to get the right visual in, or it sort of suggests to you also what kind of visuals you can use. Now, in this case, it's just sales, right? It's if you just drag in a variable, it will a numeric variable. It will give you a bar chart. We will see other examples where you can see, for example, we look at country. It will do different things. So this is what you could do. You can, for example, create a sales column. Now, of course, if I just plot in sales there, it doesn't tell you anything. But what if, for example, we would add some years to it? Okay, good. Still, I would swap it. If I would swap it, then just go here, get it here, get it in here. There we go. And for example, if I want to drill down, I want to see how it does on quarters. Of course, I've now just one set. I think I'll show it on the sales data because right now you can do it per day if you want to. But anyway, that's maybe not enough data. Right, so now you can see your flow over time. And well, there happens something over time. But this is just 1 month of data, right? So I think we're going to look at the other one. So let me peek new. All right, we changed types. Yeah, we got the new one. All right, and we can also create calculated values because, for example, in this case, we know the sales. So the amount of, and excuse me, I made it into revenue, but actually it's a number. So I was wrong. I go back. This wasn't it. It's just, we keep it like general because it was a number. And that's actually also confusing because it's the sales, but it's actually the number of laminate you sold. So if I want to know the revenue, I still go back to my table. There it is. And there's no revenue here. But to get revenue, of course, it's just a matter of multiplying your price versus sales. So if I go here and I edit my query, I have other options to add columns. We've added 2 columns priorly. Based on 1 column, but now we're going to add a custom column. And here actually you can tell it what it was. Well, we're going to calculate revenue, and we can use the available columns that are there. So in this case, revenue is based on my price, and I'm going to multiply it with the sales, so the sales amount. And you say, okay. It also tells you that there are no syntax errors, but if you would do it wrong, it will also come up like, hey, you're missing something, you can do something, and of course, there's a link to a source where you can find more information about it. So in this case, now I do have revenue. It's still not sure what it is, so I have to give it a type. Because you can see here it's ABC123. Well, that's not clear. So I say, well, it's a decimal number, right? and it will detect the data type. And so that's okay. So we know now that at least it's good. We can apply it. And we can say that the revenue is modeled as $1. Right. Okay, good. So this is actually how you also calculate value. So if I now would look at revenue, I remove this one. There you go. I want to see revenue, for example, per day of the week. Of course, it's just an example. And you can see that, well, actually on Tuesday, Monday, you were doing fine. So this is ordered. So if you want to know on which day you sold most, this is a way of just showing it. Another thing that might be nice if you would like to know, because for example, now they're all the days of the week, but you don't know whether something is weekend or not, you could actually also format that if you would like to do that. For now, we're gonna look at another way to import data. So we've seen to get some data from a PDF, and there's also just, let's say, the standard one, and to get it from an Excel file. So I'm gonna shut this down, I'm not saving it, and let's do a new start. So we're starting with Power BI. I use get data again. And I'm going to load an Excel file that contains more than just one tab. In this case, it's a well-known Contoso file. So yeah, I think many of you are already bored with Contoso, but still it's nice. And what it shows you all the tabs they have. So I have a tab with brand employee, employer, inventory, products, sales, etc., etc. For now, I just want to get the brand. It shows you also an example. I want the products and I want the sales. And again, you can load it directly, but we're going to edit it first. So by just selecting it, it will getting it. And in this case, it will create different tables. The next thing I'm going to show you is how you can combine several files. But for now, it's just within that Excel file, you get the different tables, and you can edit them one by one. So if I look at the brand table, actually that looks really nice. We have our brand name, and I think it's whether it's a preferred brand or not. So that one is fine. And if we look at products, we can scroll through that. We see a product key, table, also fine. Yeah, a lot of things. So unit price, it looks already like a decimal, which is nice. So it has read correctly the format of it. And what you also could do is say, all right, I got a product name, but it contains actually two things. It contains my product, and it contains also a description of the company. Or in this case, it's Contoso, but here I got WWI and T. And if I would like to split that, it's just also to show you what you could do with split, is that you could say, all right, I'm going to transform this column. I'm going to split my column. And I said, well, I do it by delimiter. And in this case, I want to use the space, so the first space, I want to get out the Contoso part, and I get the leftmost delimiter. So there it comes. It splits it within two columns just by a click. So here I got my product name 2. So, and here I got my 1. So let's name company product. I changed it, and this is my product name. I can rename it. The 2 is now not necessary anymore. So there you go. So this is a way of splitting. Of course, you can also split on specific delimiters or things. But again, the nice thing is that you define it here within your steps. And as soon as you update your file, it will apply the same steps to it. So no need to do it every time manually. And that's actually the good part as well, because if you shift around a lot, maybe some of you do that with Excel, right? You got your Excel file, you do your cleaning, maybe your substitute values, you have to convert things, and then you got a new version of that Excel file, right? And you start all over again. Who of you had that experience? Oh, not so many, that's good. I can tell you I had it a lot of the time. Anyway, you're happier people, I think, so that's good. All right, let's apply that. It will load now the data into it. And of course, you can also say, well, if you want to load it into the model or not, if it's just for reporting or not. In this case, you just load it. It's a small data set to demo, so it's prepared for that. Now, of course, if you read data from a large database, this might take some time. And also, if you update queries, then it will also take more time. The nice thing now, what I told you before, is that you have relationships between those three tables. And of course, this is on purpose because it's the Contoso company. They have linked things. And here you can see, for example, that you have the sales table, which has a connection with the brand name. So it's like if you click on it, you can actually see what it does. So if you scroll through here, you can see that the brand name from the sales table is linked to the brand name of the brand table. And it's a many-to-one relation. So the brand table is unique, but in your sales table, you can have many observations with that brand. And also the nice new feature, what we didn't have, and it's not for now, but you have a many-to-many connection. Because in the past, we didn't have that option, and sometimes you have just a many-to-many relation, and you couldn't create that relationship. Well, right now you can do it, so that's nice. And in this case, I just want a single relation. So the cross filter is single. It's not in both directions. Well, that depends a little bit on your data model. This is sort of a classical star scheme. Same for the relation with product label. You see a link also, and it highlights also what it is. So the brand name is all over, and these are linked These are linked in between. So you don't have to create one big flag file. It's just here. And it's ready to actually make some graphs. Let me see which graphs I want to do. Yeah, good. All right. So another thing to look at, let me see. If I look at the sales, yeah. For example, I told you that if you format your data right, it comes up with a visual that might be right for that specific variable. So in this case, we have country. Remember, if you look at the sales table, you can see that this sales contains all the sales of those specific countries. All right, so you have Australia, US, Great Britain, Germany, etc., etc. But this as a file, it's not formatted yet. But what I can do is I say, all right, I have my country, and via modeling, I can say, all right, it has a data category. So you can categorize your own variables. And in this case, it's a country/region. And now this changes. So what you can see here is that it got the little globe. Like, for example, for all your numeric values, you got the sigma sign. And for a date, you got the calendar. But you see that it's changed it. So if I now drag this value on the field, it will come up with a map. Because it knows that it's a country. It can plot it on the map. So you can easily plot your sales. So the sales amount on the map. And make a little bit bigger. Right. So it shows you, if you hover over it, that Germany, the sales of Germany, you see France, we see Australia, a big part in the United States, and in Canada too. So this is an easy way of sort of interact with your data. So you can also select, for example, this bubble, it will highlight it. And if you would like to see how much it is, you could, for example, also say, all right, I want my sales amount. Let me see where it is. So you can drag it here. And I just selected Canada. Now this all sales, if I click, for example, on Germany, it highlights the part of the sales that's coming from Germany. So it's linked. You don't have to configure that. It's automated. So this is a way of very quickly gaining some insights. Another nice thing to do, so we had our sales. And maybe we want it over time. So let's get order date in it. And here we see the sales over time. So we start in 2011, then 2015. And of course, per year, it's, well, not too good. I want a trend line. Maybe dive a little deeper. All right, so I can see my trend. And one of the nice new things is that, I mean, I don't know what happened here, right? It's sort of like, well, I see a lot of things, but, well, actually, I don't know what's behind it because I only have sales, I only have my year. So what you can do is go to a specific data point. So I want to see it decrease a lot, right? What happened? And you can right-click on it, and you can say, all right, explain this decrease to me. This is in preview, so it's new. And now it runs the analysis and compares the data what you had, and it comes with possible explanations. Now, this is in preview, so here's the part actually where you come into place as well, by telling actually whether it was useful or not. So what do we see? So we see that actually United States in this case accounted for the majority of the decrease among country, offsetting increase of France. So it explains you from which country actually it was coming. This is one of the options. The other thing is that it's look like, let me see. We also have the products. So then it goes through the sales amount per product and see whether that would fit your story. Another explanation could be that the decrease has to do with the manufacturer. Okay, and based on your story, based on what you're going to tell, you can select what you do. And for example, if I just say, all right, I'm country focused, I can say, all right, this graph suits me very well. And you can also choose for different representations. But in this case, all right, I want this one on my chart. And it adds it automatically. So there it is. Of course, this is a little bit big. So in this case, you can easily add some explanatory graphs to your, let's say, basic graphs. Right? Does that sound useful for you? Yes. I see some nodding people. Okay, good, good. So this is one of the options. And again, please also tell whether something is useful or not in a way that, I mean, if it's not the right explanation for these degrees, then you can just give the thumbs down. Okay, and again, it's an active community, the Power BI community, so your voice is really heard. At least that's my experience, that it's very useful. Let me see what else I wanted to show. Sorry for that, I have my cheat sheet. Good. All right, another nice thing, which at least I suffered a lot from in Excel, is if I had my, let's say, my pivoted tables, right, my pivoted information, but I was interested, for example, in not the average of the whole year, but I wanted to have some more specific aggregation levels. That's also an option now. And as said, the fact that this is, we got a table. Let me see. We're going to create a table. We're going to look at the sales over time. And I want to see the sales amount. So I got it per year. The nice thing about sales, the order date, maybe you've seen it already, it's a hierarchy. So sorry for clicking that quickly before. You can drill down the hierarchy. So yes, I have my year, but I can drill to my quarter. I can drill to the day. So to the month and to the day. And in this case, on yearly level, that's too high. So I can just go one step down. And now I see my sales per quarter. Maybe the numbers are a little small. I'm going to make them a little bigger, so hopefully you can see it better. Yeah, there we go. Is this readable for everyone? Good. So, as said, you dragged in the sales amount, and now by default, this is giving you the sum of it. So, if you go to the values, you see that here, it's pre-defaulted as like sum all my values. Of course, you can also choose a different version. So, for example, if I drag another one of it, and I say, right, it's sales amount, but now I want to see the average of it, There you go. So I got an average of, in this case, the quarters. Right. But if I want to see the monthly averages, for example, right now I'm sort of lost because I can't get it with my normal average. The good news, of course, is that you have an option to create those measures. And actually, not only to create this measure, but also to create other, let's say, insightful measures. There's an option that's called create a new quick measure that's supposed to help you to get some nice, and it crashed. Good. I told you it's a real sample. Wow. Okay. Good. Hopefully it has an auto backup. Yep. Oh, we got some recovered files. Let's see where it comes up with. Lost some data. All right, so good. Let's remove this one. Now, always save your file. Of course, that's the message. Huh? But for now, I mean, I'm still happy. So we wanted to make a pivot table. And we said, all right, we got the sales amount. I also had the order date. And I say, all right, oops. I want to drill through the hierarchy. And there we are. It's still small. And now, just to be sure, I'll save it. But hey, this is what happens in real life, right? I could give you all the screenshots, but this is real life. Okay, we said the normal average, that's not enough for us. So even if we take the normal average here, nope, that's not what we want. We're now looking at the monthly averages within that value. So quick measure, and let's see if it doesn't crash this time, please. Good. All right. So here you got a whole list, long list of all possible pre-formatted, I would say, measures. So what you've seen before is when we created the revenue, right? We were actually writing a little bit of DAX code. Now, this is sort of a template for your new measures. So you have time intelligent things, you have running totals, year-over-year change. I think that's a nice one for financial people here, for example. They're all kind of mathematical operations. You can concatenate list of values. For now, we're interested in the average per category. And the category in this case is the month. So we select it. We can have a base value. Now, in this case, of course, I don't want to have an average of a sales amount because then I got the average of the average, which doesn't make sense. So I go back to my sum, and instead of the order year, I'm now interested in seeing it on a monthly basis. So there we go. And there it is. So what it does, and is this readable for people? It creates actually a piece of DAX code. So if you don't want to write your own DAX formulas, right, this hopefully helps you in order to get your sort of code done. And it's out of the box. Of course, you can edit these measures. It's just a normal measure, but it's created with a template. So hopefully that's helpful to you. So this is how you can create the quick insights. And yeah, let's see what else we can do. Yeah, if I don't know what kind of visual to build, right, but I know what I want, I can also double click. And if I double click, it says, all right, ask a question about your data. It's the text interface actually where you can say, all right, I can explain what I want. So I want to see, for example, my revenue. Yeah, of course I don't have a sales amount per category. There you go. And of course, you have to adapt a little bit. Sorry, it's amount. God. Wait, sales amount per category. There you go. Of course, I was typing revenue because I'm used to data that contains a revenue variable. Now, in this case, it doesn't have a revenue variable. Now, it's not that intelligent that it says, all right, I got a whole list of equivalents of my sales amount. But normally, if you work with the data, you're quite biased, so you know your data and you know actually that you're talking in your company about sales amount, right? So that will be fine. So maybe that would be the next step for this interface to say, all right, for example, what are equivalents of column names? I don't know, I will post that as a suggestion. But you can see that by just typing what you want, it creates a graph for you, okay? Now, does that sound useful? Yeah, a lot of nodding heads again. Okay, cool. All right, so there are many ways of getting your graphs out there. And one thing I also promise you is to show you a visual from the marketplace, because what you've seen here is there are a lot of visuals. However, this is limited, right? Although you can write many things. What you could also do is say, all right, I want a new visual. And actually, I'm going for the funny one. I don't know, how many know the fishes? Oh, the aquarium one, yeah, exactly. So there's one chart, and it's called the aquarium one, and it's the enlightened aquarium. And yeah, I like it because it's just fun. So it's imported, and now you can see the little fish here. So if I would open that on a new screen and make it big, and I will now drag in the country and so those are my fishes, they're the countries, and I want to know how big they are, and I can drag in the sales amount, and there we go. So if you're CFO and you're bored and you just want to see how your company runs, right, then just plot in your aquarium, and you can see how your data is doing. So, and actually, it's a fun thing, but we spoke also about the connection with your company data. Of course, if you would push a refresh, you can see live fish here. So that's, well, anyhow, I like it. It's quite funny to see this instead of the normal boring graphs. Let me see. Another thing you can do, and that's something that's actually coming more and more into these kind of applications. What you've seen, you've got a little piece of machine learning already behind it, or it's a model to get, let's say, if you type something, it comes back with the right suggestion and things. So there are some intelligent things behind it. The other thing is, if I get rid of the country, that the whole machine learning part is coming into Power BI. We already know that there will come things, I don't know exactly what, but the integration of it is already seen. So what if, for example, I would like to see whether there's a correlation between my customer satisfaction and let me see if they would also be willing to actually purchase something again. That's also nice. So let me take, in this case, the averages of it. Yeah, there we go. And my detail would be the products they buy. So yep, there we go. All right. So, well, and this to me, and I make this a little bigger. It shows you a whole bunch of dots, right? So we have the NSAT, so that's the satisfaction of the person, and if they buy specific products again. But this, to me, it might be sort of correlation, but I see odd things. Now, the nice thing now is that I can actually already cluster them. So normally when you do cluster analysis, you would have to run your own scripts. But you have an option to say, all right, find my clusters. And you can say how many clusters you would find. And are there people familiar with unsupervised machine learning here? Yeah, some of them. All right, so we know that when we want to explore our data, right, we can see whether we have specific group of people. So within my observations, do I have specific clusters of people that are tending to buy new products or not? And in this case, I say, well, I'm not going to define the number of clusters, and I just let it run. and see what happens. So it tries to detect some information. So I see groups here, which of course later on I can analyze. And what you've seen here also is that it will add a cluster to specific product IDs. So if I look at my products, I see clusters. I can analyze them, but I can also say, all right, this is not what I want. You can do a different one. You can say, all right, I want, for example, 3 clusters, or give me just 2 clusters, right? So you can play with that literally, because the way to understand your data, if you don't know where you're looking for, that's really the interaction between, all right, let's explore, come back to it. Does this tell something? Is this a specific group of products? What does this do, right? It seems fairly distributed cluster, so it's nice to explore it, and maybe you want to target them differently. Okay, so this is just showing you some way of pre-generated, actually incorporated machine learning options you have if you don't want to build things yourself. Now, of course, you can build things yourself. Power BI is open to R, to Python, so you can do many things with data yourself. However, for people that like more the graphical part of it, then that's an option too. And yeah. And another thing is, okay, well, let's say we have our nice graphs, but you're not very happy with the colors. Then you can also switch the theme, because maybe if you're colorblind, then this will help. And the nice thing is of using a theme is that you don't have to change every single graph, but you can just, adapt it. You can also customize it, and you can save it as your theme, so your company theme. So every other graph you're dragging into it, it's configured the way you want. Of course, you can you can do many things here. Again, these are, let's say, the quick options. You can also export this template or this report as a template. So it takes your format, and if you build a new report, you can just start with that template, and then you're fine too. And you don't have to change all the colors all the time, and that might be nice, I think. So I think I showed you everything. Yep. All right. So basically, this was the demo. And the final part of this presentation is actually showing you some sources, or actually talking you through some sources where you can do it yourself, actually, because I think the next thing would be get started or continue doing what you did and maybe got some inspired. So there are some courses around. This is an example of dashboard in a day. It's available at the marketplace, but there are many more options to learn Power BI. If you want to do it yourself, no worries. Also, that's an option. You can go through the guided learning, and there's also an edX course available. Of course, there are also the Dutch learning partners. So if you look at futureproof.net, that's the LLPA version of it. And there are YouTube videos. There are a lot of YouTube videos out there, really good explanatory tutorials where you can go through. The other ones is that if you don't want to do everything yourself, you can just start with a sample. And I think that's nice to show you. I think, yeah, we're good on schedule, so it's good. So this shows you some examples. And it might be a nice idea to start with something. Let me see, what do I like? Well, I like people, so let's say human resources. You can download it, I've opened it directly. And it gives you a PBIX file. And it takes some time. And there you go. So you, as a HR manager, for example, if you want to see things, this is built by Obvions, it gives you a generic idea of what you could do with your data. And the nice thing is, of course, that you can see what kind of data you would need. So if you would have this data, you can easily adapt it. So you just load a new data source, you change it, you connect it, and then you're fine. So this is just to give you an idea. So for example, if I want to see the females out of here, well, it selects it. So you can drill through your own data, and it might inspire you to build your own dashboards, not from scratch, but already from a sample. So that's the sample part. There are also all kind of service apps, and you have solution templates, so the more extensive part of it. And the last part, of course, you want to tell your story. And therefore, you, of course, the one thing you see, people see the part visually. So the colors, the data, the scheme, the color scheme, that's also something you can already download. There are also guidelines on how to make your tooltips. We already see it when, for example, when we hovered over the country map. Now that was a really basic hovering, right? You only got the country name and the very wrongly formatted amount string. But of course, you can update it. So you can make nice tooltips. So when you hover over everything, you see more detailed information, and you can drill through. The other nice thing is bookmarks and buttons. So if you have your dashboard and you want to guide people through your story, you can use bookmarks, which are sort of like links where you can link to. So within your report, you can then highlight specific things. So you can hopefully help your user go through your story. So when you hand it over, it's still your story. And also kind of buttons where you can click on and highlight, download things. There's also a story gallery. So if you want to get inspired again, I would also say many people did many things. So I would go there to just see what's done there. If you have a specific company background and you have your own grid, you could make that grid yourself. Now, of course, be aware of the fact that if you build a grid and you make just one image, if it's on different devices, I think you should take that into account because, yeah, of course, if it's scalable or not. But I think a nice thing to try out, you can build your own grid, save it, and then use it in Power BI. And as said, all these slides will be available, so you will have it. Some nice Power BI tips layout. So you can go to their website. There are a lot of examples there. How you get nice. So when you hover over something, that you get nice information. Yeah, it's an endless world, actually, I would say. And as said, it's this one I covered. It's a very lively community. So apart from, let's say, your own part where you can share and store all your files within your company, so save it as your OneDrive business, etc. You can share with others. So I would say the whole marketplace history for us is really nice. As said in the beginning, and that's actually your title is Model Once, Author Many Reports. So the modeling part, if you get that one right, that's so useful because this is actually a tool that you want to give to your users, right? So they can create their own reports. But it's only useful if the data behind it is well, or is correct. It has a high quality, but it's also connected in the right way. So it's structured in the right way. It's modeled correctly. Because of course, if you model it wrong, you will end up with the wrong numbers. And now, I've seen many companies that were looking at dashboards actually containing wrong information. So I would say invest in modeling. So do that job, please, very well. And then actually you offer a lot of possibilities to your users. On the other hand, I think if you give your model out, right, that's also the way to improve it because as soon as people start using your data, they will come up with questions. Well, at least hopefully they will come up with questions. And they might question numbers like, hey, my numbers are wrong, what's happening? So I've seen the usage of this tool actually also in project where they actually wanted to improve data quality. And by handing it over to their employees, they got that conversation started between IT and business. Because then all of a sudden it was, hey, my numbers look wrong. And people came with different reports and it wasn't showing the same thing. So many of my customers improved their data actually by using visualization tools to get information about it. And of course, you can, as I said, the deployment of it, if you're from a company, make sure people use the same version, because if not, somebody's designing something really nice in version actually that is superior to the other one that's company used, and then it won't work. That's too bad. And to stay up to date, and I got 19 seconds, you have a blog and also the option to get the preview features, as I said. So you can try things yourself. You can interact with the community. There are a lot of webinars. And yeah, as said, I would say you have a voice. So it's actually up to you to go and explore, tell Microsoft what you think, tell them what you like, what you don't like, and share with the community. And I think I'm not an expert, but there are a lot of experts outside, and they really have a lot to share. So that's it for today.